there. Oh, I'm the book lady, and I'm so glad you came back today because, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you something. I have had laryngitis for 10 days. Now, laryngitis means you can't talk. You kind of talk like that. 10 days. It was awful. I couldn't answer my phone. I couldn't talk to my dog. I would just pet her. But finally, my voice has come back. And so let's keep our fingers crossed that I can do both books with a full voice. Anyway, I am the book lady, and we read 2 books and then talk about them a little bit. And I think you're going to enjoy the books I brought to you today. This is called Those Shoes. It's a good book. You're going to enjoy it, and there's a lot to talk about in this book. All right? And then, a while back, we read about Madeline. Madeline is a little 7-year-old girl who goes to a school that's all girls, and Miss Clavel is their teacher. She watches over them. And sometimes Madeline can get into a little trouble, but she has a lot of adventures. So we're going to read Madeline's rescue. Her rescue. Why don't we start with Madeline? Oh, I love the pictures in this book. In an old house in Paris that was covered with vines lived 12 little girls in 2 straight lines. They left the house at 9:30 in 2 straight lines in rain or shine. The smallest one was Madeline. She was not afraid of mice. She loved winter, snow, and ice. To the tiger in the zoo, Madeline just said, "Pooh, pooh." And nobody knew so well how to frighten Miss Clavel until the day, oops, she slipped and fell. Oh, poor Madeline would now be dead. But for a dog that kept its head, wow, and dragged her safe from a watery grave. That's such a brave dog. From now on, I hope you will listen to me. And here is a cup of chamomile tea. Good night, little girls. I hope you sleep well. Good night, dear Miss Clavel. Miss Clavel turned out the light, and she left. After she left, there was a fight about where the dog should sleep that night. The dog went to school with them. The new pupil was ever so helpful and clever. The dog loved biscuits, milk, and beef, and they named it Genevieve. Oh, those girls have a dog. She could sing and almost talk and enjoyed the daily walk. Soon the snow began to fly. Inside, it was warm and dry, and 6 months passed quickly by. When the 1st of May came near, there was a nervousness each year. For on that day, there arrived a collection of trustees for the annual inspection. The inspection was most thorough, much to everybody's sorrow.
Tap, tap. What can that be? Tap, tap. Come out and let me see. Oh, dear me. It's a dog. Isn't there a rule that says dogs aren't allowed in school?
Miss Clavel, get rid of it, please, said the president of the Board of Trustees.
Yes, but the children love her so, said Miss Clavel. Please, don't make her go.
I dare say, said Lord Cuckoo-Face. I mean, it's a perfect disgrace for young ladies to embrace this creature of uncertain race. Go, off with you. Run, scat, go away and don't come back. They threw Genevieve out. Madeline jumped on a chair.
Lord Cuckoo-Face, she cried, beware! Miss Genevieve, noblest dog in France, you shall have your vengeance!
It's no use crying or talking. Let's get dressed and go out walking. The sooner we're ready, the sooner we'll leave, the sooner
we'll find Miss Genevieve.
They went looking high and low, and every place a dog might go, in every place they called her name. Genevieve, Genevieve. But no one answered to the same. The gendarmes said, a gendarme is a policeman, said, we don't believe we've seen a dog like Genevieve. Hours after they had started, they came back home broken-hearted. Oh, Genevieve, where can you be? Genevieve, please come back to me. In the middle of the night, Miss Clavel turned on the light and said, something is not right. An old street lamp shed its light on Miss Genevieve outside. She was petted, she was fed, and everybody went to bed. Good night, little girls. I hope you sleep well. Good night, dear Miss Clavel. Miss Clavel turned out the light, and again there was a fight, as each little girl cried, Genevieve is mine tonight. For a second time that night, Miss Clavel turned on her light, and afraid of a disaster, she ran fast and even faster. If there's one more fight about Genevieve, I'm sorry, but she'll have to leave. That was the end of the riot. Suddenly, all was quiet. For the third time that night, Miss Clavel turned on the light. And to her surprise, she found that suddenly there was enough hound to go around. Genevieve had puppies. So they all get their own little puppy dog. I'll show you a picture that I like. When Miss Clavel ran fast and then faster, all the artist did was take her, and she was standing up, and they just brought her down, and it makes it look like she's zooming off. I like that. This is a fun book, Madeline's Rescue. I got this at the library, and I think you'll be able to find it. And if you have any book suggestions for me, I'd love to hear them. But I have so much fun. You know, the librarian came over to me at my library, and she said, are you looking for books, book lady? And I said, yes, I am. So she recommended this book. It's called Those Shoes. So I'd like to read it to you. It's by Maribeth Boelts, and it's a good book. We're going to learn something in this book. And the best news is that my voice is holding out. I hope none of you ever get laryngitis. I've decided little children don't get laryngitis. It's a grown-up thing. Okay. Oh, I have dreams about those shoes. Black high tops. 2 white stripes. Grandma, I want them. There's no room for want around here. Just need, Grandma says. And what you need are new boots for winter. Brandon T. comes to school in those shoes. He says he's the fastest runner now, not me. I was always the fastest before those shoes came along. Nate comes to school in those shoes. Antonio and I count how many times Nate goes to the bathroom. 7 times in one day, just so he can walk up and down the hall real slow. Next, Alan Jacoby and Terrence each get a pair. Then, one day, in the middle of kickball, one of my shoes comes apart. Looks like you could use a new pair, Jeremy, Mr. Alfrey, the guidance counselor, says. He brings out a box of shoes and other stuff he has for kids who need things. He helps me find the only shoes that are my size. Velcro. Like the ones my little cousin Marshall wears. They have an animal on them from a cartoon I don't think any kid ever watched. Boy, he really wanted those shoes. When I come back to the classroom, Alan Jacoby takes one look at my Mr. Alfrey shoes and laughs. And so do Terrence, Brandon T., and everyone else. The only kid not laughing is Antonio Parker. At home, Grandma says, "How kind of Mr. Alfrey." I nod and turn my back. I'm not going to cry about any dumb shoes. But when I'm writing my spelling words later, every word looks like the word shoes. And my grip is so tight on my pencil, I think it might bust. On Saturday, Grandma says, "Let's check out those shoes you're wanting so much. I got a little bit of money set aside. Might be enough. You never know." At the shoe store, Grandma turns those shoes over so she can check the price. When she sees it, she sits down heavy. Maybe they wrote it down wrong, I said. Grandma shakes her head. Then I remember the thrift shops. Well, what if there's a rich kid who outgrew his, or maybe he got 2 pair for Christmas and had to give one of them away? So we ride the bus to the first thrift shop. Black cowboy boots, pink slippers, sandals, high heels, every kind of shoe except the ones I want. We ride the bus to the second thrift shop. Not a pair of those shoes in sight. Around the corner is the third thrift shop. I see something. I see something in the window. Black shoes with 2 white stripes. High tops, perfect shape, $2.50. Those shoes. Oh, my heart is pounding hard as I take off my shoes and hitch up my baggy socks. Oh, how exciting, Grandma said. What size are they? I shoved my foot into the first shoe, curling my toes to get my heel in. I don't know, but I think they fit. Grandma kneels on the floor and feels for my toes at the end of the shoe. Oh, Jeremy, I can't spend good money on shoes that don't fit. I pull the other shoe on and I try to walk around. Oh, no, they're okay, I say, holding my breath and praying that my toes will fall off right then and there. But my toes don't fall off. I buy them anyway with my own money, and I squeeze them on and limp to the bus stop. At home, a few days later, Grandma puts a new pair of snow boots in my closet and doesn't say a word about my 2 big feet shuffling around in my 2 small shoes. Sometimes shoes stretch. Grandma gives me a hug. I check every day, but those shoes don't stretch. Oh, I have to wear my Mr. Alfrey shoes to school instead. One day, during math, I glance at Antonio's shoes. One of them is taped up, and his feet look smaller than mine. After school, I head to the park to think. Antonio is there, the only kid who didn't laugh at my Mr. Alfrey shoes. We shoot baskets. A loose piece of tape on Antonio's shoe smacks the concrete every time he jumps. I think I'm not going to do it. We leap off the swings. I'm not going to do it. We race from one end of the playground to the other. I'm not going to do it. Do what? Antonio says, breathing hard. Grandma calls me for supper and invites Antonio over too. After supper, he spies my shoes. How come you don't wear them? Antonio asks. My hands are sweaty and I can feel him wishing those shoes were his. That night, I am awake for a long time thinking about Antonio. When morning comes, I try on my shoes one last time. Before I can change my mind, the shoes are in my coat. Snow is beginning to fall as I run across the street to Antonio's apartment. I put the shoes in front of his door, push the doorbell, and run. At school, Antonio is smiling big in his brand new shoes. I feel happy when I look at his face and mad when I look at my Mr. Alfrey shoes. But later, when it's time for recess, something happens. Everywhere there's snow. Leave your shoes in the hall and change into your boots, a teacher announces. Leave your shoes in the hall. It's then I remember what I have in my backpack. New boots. New black boots that no kid has ever worn before. Standing in line to go to recess, Antonio leans forward and says, "Thanks." I smile and give him a nudge. Let's race. This is just such a beautiful story, and it involves the word conscience. Do you know what your conscience is? It's kind of your inside voice, the one that other people don't hear. You hear it. You feel it. And he knew that he bought those shoes because he had to have those shoes, and they didn't fit him. He was never going to wear those shoes. But Antonio's shoes were taped together, and he really needed shoes. So he put those shoes on Antonio's step. But remember that they say he went off to think. And when he got in bed that night, he didn't go right to sleep. He was thinking. And that was his conscience. Yeah. Talking to him. And reminding him, does he want to do the right thing? And the other important aspect of this story is the difference between I want and I need. We want a lot of things. Oh, I want new earrings. Oh, I need new glasses. Now, you might need new glasses because you're having trouble seeing. You need new shoes if your shoes don't fit or they have holes in them. But when you want something, that's very different than if you need it. I want an ice cream cone. You don't need it. And we sort of see a lot of that in this story. And I think that his grandmother is very wise. She knows he wants those shoes so badly. She knows those shoes, when he finally finds them at the thrift store, are not going to fit his feet, because when she pinched the toes, they were right there on the edge. And you'll see one picture in here where his feet all have Band-Aids on them. Yeah, that's from blisters, from wearing shoes that don't fit. And Grandma didn't say anything because she knew he'd learned his lesson and he had a conscience. He was going to do the right thing. And he did. He gave those shoes to Antonio. And Antonio loved them. He was so happy at school because he had the same shoes as all the cool boys. And quietly, when they were alone, he said, "Thanks." I hope someday if you see someone who could use a little something because they need it, that maybe your conscience will talk to you. Maybe you'll see someone on the school bus who's looking kind of sad. Instead of sort of laughing at them or avoiding them, maybe you should sit down and ask them, "Bad day?" "Yeah." "Can I help? Do you want to talk about it?" They might say, "No." That's okay. You respect that. You don't bug them. So these were our books today. Those shoes. We learned some good lessons in this. And then the fun one was Madeline's Rescue. And that Madeline, I'm going to find some more Madeline books because she does have some adventures, don't you think? And I love the pictures. Oh, we've had so much fun. And you know another place I go to have a lot of fun? I go to the library. And since I go to the children's section, lots of times I'm the only grown-up there. It's mostly children. And do you know when I walk in, sometimes they say, you're the book lady. I go, yes, I am. And they'll help me find books. So remember that you can watch the book lady on YouTube. So you can ask your mom or dad, or maybe you have an older brother or sister, to find YouTube, and they just type in the book lady, and I'll bet you could find, and all the episodes are there, so you'll see all the different books we've read. We have read almost 100 books. Can you believe it? And it's been fun. I hope that you will come back next time to see what 2 books I have chosen to read to you. And I also hope that this week you've learned what your conscience is. It's that little voice deep inside that tells you whether something feels like it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do. And you got to listen to that. And I'm thankful that my voice held out. And until then, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.